Rage. In the context of this rant, rage refers to the relatively recent South African tradition whereby teenagers who have finished high school go on a binge to let off steam after their final exams. Rage events are normally hosted in coastal hotspots just prior to the kick-off of the Christmas holiday season. Booze, smooching, dancing, sweating and coupling are de rigueur. Its nearest equivalent in the US would be spring break. In most years, I have absolutely no objection to the principle of rage. High school can be a rough time for adolescent human beings, and they should be afforded the time and space to decompress. This, however, is not most years. For a moment, let us put aside the weapons-grade morons who think that COVID-19 is caused by 5G or vaccine profiteers and acknowledge that COVID is an unprecedented human health risk. Anyone with even a quarter of a neuron would have assumed that rage events needed to be banned by the government, as the number of South African COVID cases skyrocketed and research about super-spreader events became clear. Relying on the South African government for anything other than a litany of jaw-dropping scandals, cover-ups and lies would be ridiculous, however. But everybody knows this. I thought it obvious, therefore, that any person with sufficient cerebral function to eat without assistance would have understood that rage needed to be cancelled this year. Alas, while our state schools were still writing their final exams, a number of private school kids jetted off for rage. These are the most privileged students in the country, supposedly just imbued with the country's premier education. They are the offspring of the richest South Africans. Their connections and privilege will give them access to work and further educational opportunities that most South Africans don't even know exist. These are the future captains of industry. Well, there's a dearth of leadership in the world right now, and clearly it ain't about to get better. It is almost beyond comprehension that this bunch of supposedly uber-educated imbeciles thought it just dandy to attend rage. It is even more gobsmacking that their parents okayed and then funded their little darlings' super-spreader extravaganzas. The organisers of the rage events made platitudes about social distancing and following regulations, blah blah blah. The naivety or stupidity in this is staggering. Were they never 18 themselves? Have they ever met an 18-year-old loosed on the world with full freedom and cash to burn? Everything those kids went to rage for specifically precluded social distancing and specifically included the exchange of all manner of bodily fluids. While the dance floors heaved with sweaty bodies, every flower bed, alley, dune, car seat and public convenience was no doubt occupied by ragers intent on becoming, at the very least, intimately familiar with the internal workings of one another's faces. This is normal. It is part of being 18 in many parts of the world. But it is sociopathic madness in 2020. Some estimates have put the infection rate of these ragers at 90%. So it was, on their departure from rage, that these future leaders carried with them a very special Christmas gift. They went home to bequeath their gifts of COVID RNA to their families and communities just about to gather for the holidays. To their parents, their siblings, their aging grandparents, shopkeepers, petrol attendants, domestic workers, and any number of others who, if they become symptomatic, will not have access to anything other than the crime against humanity that passes for government health services in South Africa. My 77-year-old father recently recovered from COVID. He was on oxygen for a week. It is highly likely he would have been hospitalized, but there wasn't one private hospital bed available in the Eastern Cape, and so my mother nursed him to health with the help of a saintly GP. We may have been able to find a rusty gurney in the corridor of a government facility, but the horrors to which my poor dad was subjected by the ANC government's idea of health earlier this year precluded this option. As I speak, the ICUs in the Durban region are full to capacity, mostly with COVID patients. Many will not be as fortunate as my dad. As our president said chillingly last night, for a lot of people, this will be their last Christmas. Some 390 heroic South African health workers have died of COVID. The ragers and their parents have shoved a big, privileged middle finger in the faces of those heroes and their families. and for what exactly?
If you liked this video, please give it a... and subscribe. If you didn't like it, subscribe anyway. There'll be further videos and you might like those. Or you might not.